Okay, so Salam Alaikum Lahore. Pakistan Zindabad. Okay, I've got you woken up. Now this is a hard gig to do because I'm almost the last act on the last day of 3 pretty full days. And the last thing you probably want to do is, hear another presentation and stuff, but tough because that's what you're going to get. So I'm just going to go through a few slides. So who am I? Arif Zaman is my name, not to be confused with that very well-known professor from LUMS, who's also called Arif Zaman. I've met him, but I'm not him. My family is originally from Lahore. I was born in London, and I've been here many times, but not for a few years. And this morning I was taken around the wall city, the old city, and I saw this amazing restoration work that's going on, taken around by my good friends from the Pakistan Institute of Fashion and Design, great institution here, but also leading the charge in Pakistan on the work that they're doing in fashion and design, and also in particular working with the Commonwealth Fashion Council. So let me just get this thing going. First slide, if I can get this up. Okay, so if the IT was great, I would have shown you a short video here. But VUCA, I just wanted to get this point across. And if you've never heard of the acronym VUCA before, Google it, check it out, okay? Because it basically stands for 4 words, which, whether it's Lahore, London, or other places around the world, South Africa, America, Australia, India, we've all seen this in the last few years. V stands for volatility. U stands for uncertainty. C stands for complexity. And A stands for ambiguity. Yeah? Uncertainty. Yeah? Uncertainty over the internet connection. Some of you may have seen the headlines a few hours ago from the courts instructing the election commission to make sure we had uninterrupted internet connectivity before the election. So this is the world we are living in, my friends. This is the world we are living in today. We are living in a VUCA world. So any of those things that you've been taught at university or at school about these models that don't use this, you need to update that because the VUCA is the world we're living in. And we've seen that in so many different ways. You've certainly seen that here in Pakistan, but we've seen that elsewhere as well around the world. So when there's a lot of this stuff going on, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, how do we work together? How do we work together across countries and across communities? Well, it's a bit of a long quote, but I will read what it says because I think it's important. And this is what it says. You can read it yourself, but I'll read it out just in case. It says, in an era of changing economic circumstances and uncertainty, new trade and economic patterns, unprecedented threats to peace and security, and a surge in popular demands for democracy, human rights, and broadened economic opportunities, the potential and need for the Commonwealth as a compelling force for good, as an effective network for cooperation and for promoting development has never been greater. Signed by the late Elizabeth II, who some of you may know from your history books was the first and only Queen of Pakistan. She was actually Queen of Pakistan from 1952 to the 1956 Constitution. And that was what she signed her name to. That's the Commonwealth Charter. That was written about 10 years ago. But if you read those words today, they have even more resonance and meaning. And I'm going to really spell out a bit how. Now, the Commonwealth, some of you may know something about the Commonwealth. You probably think of it maybe through the Commonwealth Games, or maybe a group of countries, or maybe linked to the British. Well, actually, Pakistan was a founder of the modern Commonwealth. There were 8 countries. In 1949, Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan, 1949, 8 countries founded what is called the modern Commonwealth. In fact, 3 of them were from South Asia. Pakistan, India, and Sri Lanka. 3 of the 8 were from South Asia, together with Britain, Australia, Canada, and a few others. Now, that's important, because the Commonwealth, as we know it today, is something that Pakistan helped found. But I need to tell you something about the Commonwealth, which helps you understand why it matters and why it's important. It consists of 33 small countries that make up 56 of its countries, okay? Now, what are these small countries? I'm talking about countries like Jamaica, like small countries in the Caribbean, other countries in the Caribbean, countries in the Pacific, countries like the Seychelles. Often they're islands, but not always. And those countries are right on the front line when it comes to issues of climate change. And the Commonwealth gives them an important voice and space. And if you think of what Sherry Rahman, you know the name Sherry Rahman, huh? You know the name Sherry Rahman? Okay. When Sherry Rahman went to the COP meeting, not last year, the year before last, and she was able to lead those countries called the G77 to make the case that we need, in climate change, we need to have a loss and damage fund. And she got that agreement accepted. That was a key opportunity where she worked together with many countries in the Commonwealth to make that happen, because they are on the front line of climate change. 60% of the 1 in 3 people on the planet that live in the Commonwealth are under the age of 30. That's all of you. Yes? Many people in this room share that. Point being that you share the same youth demographic with most, in fact, most of the other Commonwealth countries. Other point is that trading costs between Commonwealth countries, let's say Pakistan and the UK versus Pakistan and France, or Pakistan and Malaysia versus Pakistan and Thailand. Malaysia and the UK are in the Commonwealth, and therefore the trading costs are lower. In fact, 19% lower. And if you're a small business owner or you're an entrepreneur, that matters. That really means something. Also, 1.5 billion people. Let me say that again. 1.5 billion people regularly, every 4 years, watch the biggest sporting event on the planet, the biggest multi-sporting event after the Olympics, which is called the Commonwealth Games. And I was just saying earlier today, I remember seeing the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2013 and seeing a young girl from Pakistan of 10 represent her country in the swimming competition. So it is that, but also there is an ecosystem. There is an ecosystem of Commonwealth organizations. We have Commonwealth parliamentarians. We have Commonwealth universities, of which the Pakistan Institute of Fashion and Design is one, and where I teach in London, Bloomsbury Institute is another. We have Commonwealth local government. We have Commonwealth architects. The president of the Commonwealth Architects Association was from Lahore until a few years ago. We have Commonwealth lawyers. We have Commonwealth accountants. We have Commonwealth beekeepers. We have Commonwealth, you name it, we have it. So we also have something else called the Commonwealth Fashion Council. And we have the Commonwealth Businesswomen's Network, which I sit on the board of. And we have an international advisory group, and one of those people who's on that group is Dr. Malia Lodi, a name that some of you may recognize. But we also have something else in the Commonwealth which matters. 44% of the world's poorest women. And for every man in this room, and most of the people here are men, think about what that means. Think about what that means in relation to mothers and sisters, and cousins, that actually 44% of the other gender Commonwealth is home to, 44% of the world's poorest women. And that really matters, not just in terms of gender equality, but in terms of economic potential as well. So we're just going to play a short video now, for which we need sound. Now, some of you might wonder, hey, what's the deal here? You're a guy, and you're involved in a Businesswomen's network, you're a Commonwealth Businesswomen's network. Well, I'll tell you there are 3 reasons for that. You know Fatima Jinnah and others like her, Begum Nikat Ali Khan. Women were never absent from the campaign for justice and equality, yeah? In terms of the colonial struggle. So we know from our history books, or we should know, that women were always part of that story. We also know that today it matters, because when we talk about economic potential and growth, if women aren't part of that story, it's going to take longer to get to the destination that we need to get to. But also in terms of the future, we know that if we don't provide the right pathways and opportunities for girls in school, it's going to take longer to achieve that gender equality. So it really matters. And what happened in 2022, there was the first big meeting the world had after COVID was this. And it took place in Kigali in Rwanda. And there were some really important discussions that came out of this and agreements. So we've been talking at Future Fest about technology. But we also need to remember the 2.9 billion people around the world that do not have access to the internet. Okay? Now you may have had some connectivity issues in the last 1 or 2 days here. I know it's nothing compared if you've never in your life had access to the internet, yeah? And it matters, it matters. So this was what was the discussion point at this meeting. And there were 150 countries there, including Pakistan, in person, largely. And they came up with agreements to commit to spend over $25 billion to support issues around that, what I've just said. How can we provide internet access to more people around the world, particularly women and girls, but also how can we support technology to grow development? And we're talking about a lot of resolutions and decisions that were reached, particularly to support what we're talking about at Future Fest, entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystems. So this person is one of the most inspirational women that I've ever met. She's the Minister for Information Technology and Innovation in Rwanda. Now, you may know nothing about Rwanda, but Rwanda is a country in Africa that 30 years ago went through genocide. We're hearing a lot about that word genocide right now. They went through genocide 30 years ago. Millions of people died. And they've gone from that to being the first country in Africa to make this, the mobile phone. And Paula Ingabire is their Minister of ICT. And what we did was we asked her to come to a side event during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting and set out, because she just chaired this big UN meeting I just told you about, in the same place, how can the Commonwealth address these issues? And she said 3 things. She said what needs to happen, number 1, we need to have a much bigger focus on what we've been talking about here, fostering emerging technologies and innovation ecosystems. Now, you don't need me to tell you this. You walk outside this room and you walk into the exhibition area and you see that yourself. It's happening. It's happening right here, right now, right in front of you. So that's part of what we need to think about. What else? She talked about the need for effective support for digital transformation and innovation systems. How? Through scalable, funded and sustainable connectivity projects. And then she also talked about building capacities and encouraging digital innovation, entrepreneurship and future oversight. Now these are not just words, these are agreements from 150 countries to do stuff around this, to put money behind stuff around this, and that's why it matters. Almost coming to the end. You may not know about this, but it's important. In September last year, Pakistan's foreign minister, the current foreign minister, Jilani, chaired a meeting in London of youth ministers from 56 countries. So these are ministers that have the budget and the responsibility for you, for young people. And there are a number of things that came out of this. I'm not going to go through them in detail. talking about technology, partnerships, media partnerships, and an Asian youth platform, but there were also key commitments. So there was a big focus on technology, there was a big focus on youth entrepreneurship, and just yesterday here in FutureFest, we held a round table with the Global Entrepreneurship Network, with the National Incubation Center here in Lahore, with the Pakistan government, the Prime Minister's office. We were all there in person with a few other people around the table talking about this meeting and why it matters. But there were 11 countries that stood up and said, we don't only say this, we're going to do it and we're going to put money behind this. And they made commitments in this area. And the first country to stand up was Pakistan. And I felt very proud that that was the case. And they talked about how they were going to support entrepreneurship and employment and work with other countries in that regard. So this is almost my last slide. Now you know this man. What you might not know is this quote. I'm going to read you the quote, and I know I've had the time up piece, but I'm going to finish, then I'll finish off on this in another 2 or 3 minutes. What he said was this. And by the way, who was he speaking to? He was speaking to you. This is one of his very few speeches directly he gave to the young people of Pakistan in its first 100 days. Okay? And this is what he said. There is an immediate and urgent need for training our people in scientific and technical education in order to build up future economic life. And we should see that our people undertake scientific, commerce, trade, and particularly well-planned industries. But do not forget that we have to compete with the world, which is moving very fast in this direction. This is the Quaid-e-Azam talking in 1947, 100 days of the country starting. And he did in that single quote, he made 3 key links. He talked about the importance of scientific and technical education. Secondly, he talked about the importance of linking it to trade. He talks about commerce and trade, so we're not just doing education for purely an academic purpose. We have to do it also so we can support our trade and commerce. But then he says something else that's very important, which we've seen here in FutureFest. In 1947, he said we have to do it too, because other countries in the world are not going to be asleep, and we have to keep going in that direction too. And when I addressed the youth ministers in London, I said those words. And then I said, those are not my words. Those are the words of Muhammad Ali Jinnah Quaid-e-Azam, the founder of Pakistan. And then I said something else. I said, those words were certainly true for Pakistan in 1947, but you know what? They're even truer today for the 2.5 billion people that live in the Commonwealth, 60% of whom are like you, under the age of 30. So one of my key takeaways from this, and this is my last slide, you'll be pleased to know, the person at the back that's giving me reminders. First message, this is your moment. I'm speaking to a room whose average age is probably 22, okay? This is your moment. And in fact, this is our moment, yeah? Make the most, take advantage of the changes in the world, not just to support your growth, but to make sure that you're having an impact in those around you. Think of someone like Abdul Sattar Edhi. Nobody gave him a roadmap when he started doing what he was doing. He did it, and he kept going. And you know the rest of that story. Second takeaway, and you've heard a bit of this here, quite a lot of this here, plug in and play. Take advantage of all the things around you. You've got the exhibition hall, you've got international speakers, you've got local entrepreneurs, you've got education players here as well. You've got Spotify, you've got corporates. It's all happening, all here, right now, on your doorstep. Take advantage of all of that. Plug in and play, learn, build relationships, acquire knowledge, add people to your LinkedIn groups, develop your networks, do your research when you meet people in organizations. make the most of it. And finally, see VUCA. See the volatility, see the uncertainty, and see the complexity and ambiguity, not as a problem. Not as a problem, my friends, in Lahore, but as an opportunity. As an opportunity to make you better and to make the world better. Thank you very much.